Hi, it's Peter and
Darek.
and welcome to the first episode of DevMentors and Distributed.NET Core DShop course. Finally.
Yep, after 3 months. But to be clear, we promised you to be back fall this year, and we didn't lie because technically it's still fall. So good for us. But anyway, I think that there's some explanation needed. What actually took us so long to record the first episode. So I would say that there were two minor reasons. And the first one was that we had quite a lot of major changes in the code itself, basically in the infrastructure. And it simply made no sense to record some videos on the YouTube, if they would be obsolete in a couple days. So that was the first reason. And for now, I would say that we have quite stable code. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
At least I think so. We will do some small changes, but probably will not break any code.
It's going to be more like enhancements, and that should be still backward compatible, but not like some global refactoring as we did last week's.
Yeah. So that was the major thing. We just don't want to piss off you guys because it makes no sense to create something that's obsolete. And the other reason was that both Piotr and I had kind of complaints about different parts of our applications. Piotr was unhappy about our API gateway, and I was kind of upset about the way we handled distributed transactions. So because of that, we decided to create separate libraries, frameworks, whatever you call this, for dealing with this. So we will introduce, I think that we will record some separate video about these two libraries. One is called Ngate, which is maybe you should
it's called Ngate for now, and it's being kept in my repository on my GitHub profile, not on the DevMentors yet, and I'll think of better naming in the future. But basically, as Darek said, I wasn't really happy with the API gateway. I mean, in terms where you have to implement it on your own, like we did in our core DShop API repository. So that's why I created this API next, which is using this library, and you don't have to write any code here. You can just put your configuration in the YAML for now, and it will act as a universal gateway, so it can be run with any technology actually for Docker in probably soon in the future. And that's about Ngate. Probably more about it in some of the videos.
Yeah, we'll record some stuff about it. And I created something different. As I already said, I wasn't happy about the way we handled distributed transactions, and I was looking for some sort of framework that would act like a Saga pattern or process manager. We'll get to the more details soon. And that was kind of challenging. I actually couldn't find something except one, which was Saga pattern built in nService bus. But since we're not using nService bus, I decided to create my own framework that would implement the Saga pattern or process manager pattern. And that's called Chronicle. And this is the same thing. The name is maybe temporary, we'll see. It's also on my GitHub. I create a separate organization for that. So if you'll go to my GitHub profile, then you'll find the Chronicle stack, which is right here, hopefully.
Yeah, this is
loading.
Here.
Yeah. So first thing, as you see, I've got only 3 stars, and Piotr has 4. So you need
I already have 4 stars.
So I need more stars on this project. No, I'm kidding. So basically, this is the Chronicle library, and I will add some more integrations. The library itself contains one default implementation, which is in-memory implementation of the Saka pattern, and I plan to add some more. So the MongoDB is in progress, and I think about the Redis and Entity Framework core as well. So that was the second reason, and hopefully we'll get more involved in this recording stuff. I don't want to promise whether I don't know how many
we can promise how frequent we'll be recording videos, but for sure we'll be recording them once we have everything working in a way that we wanted to have it working. The code is pretty much stable. The libraries that we're using are mostly stable. And like Derek said, with whether it's Chronicle or whether it's my Ngate, these are some experimental features, but we just did them as part of overall solution because we couldn't find such libraries, so we had to implement something on our own, at least for this scenario to work.
Yeah, and also we thought that this open source project will be useful not only in this particular DShop project, but in your daily work. So we will do our best to deliver something actually something useful, not just some bunch of code that will work for this particular case. Yeah, but okay, that was kind of longish introduction for this episode, which took us way too much time. So we should go to the other point, which is our forum and the Gitter.
Yes, so you can go to our DevMentors.io website. Here you'll find links. We'll also put the link to Gitter. You can go from here to our forum. So whenever you want to ask some question about course or code or anything in general, you can do it either through our forum. You can also watch us on Twitter and post tweet there. You can also comment our videos on YouTube. Or you could also go to Gitter. So there is DevMentors.io. We put the link to Gitter here. And using Gitter, you can just act as through this nice chat that is publicly visible to anyone. So anyone can join, anyone can ask questions here. So you have a lot of options to ask the questions.
Yep.
Okay, so
any type of question, technical or not, you should put there.
Just put it in one of these places. I think the best ones would be forums, because this will be there for all the time, or YouTube. And
it's much easier.
And Gitter if you need some question to be answered like right now, because we are usually online using Gitter. So
I especially encourage you to join Gitter, because the more folks are involved in this community, the more useful it is for everyone, for anyone. So it will be much easier if you will join and discuss each other, some topics, not just us.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into the GitHub. So from here you can go to the GitHub, and here is our DevMentors GitHub. There is a lot of repositories there, but some of them are no longer being used. So if you scroll down, you can see that there are some repositories like storage, messages, monolith web, and the API. These ones are no longer used, at least for now. So you should
maybe we should go from the bottom to top, and will be much easier, because for now it's
So if you see this repository that wasn't updated like 9 hours ago by the time we're recording this video, but it was updated like a few weeks ago, that's probably outdated, but we just keep it here.
As a legacy.
So it's there. So starting with repositories, you can find here is the DNC DShop. This is like a base repository which doesn't have any code. It has only some scripts and some helpful README files. We'll talk about this one soon, but here you'll basically find like general topics that we'll cover, and you can find some scripts there, for example, for Docker or for running your apps. A little more,
we'll cover this in a few minutes.
Yep.
So
then you have here below Blazor. We just started playing with Blazor, so maybe we'll implement the web application for this one. But for now, it's not really important.
Yeah, basically, currently we're lack of front-end part of this application. So yeah, we thought it would be nice to implement this using Blazor, but it's not ready yet, so you can skip this.
Yeah, you can skip. We'll just stick to sending pure HTTP requests.
Yep.
So no front-end for now. All right, so here is the core API. So whenever you want to start the services, you need some API that will act as a gateway so you can communicate with other services. And you can either choose the API, which we implemented at first. And if you are new to microservices, this will be probably the best choice, because this is like a typical .NET Core MVC app with a lot of code. So you can browse through controllers, you can look how is the communication implemented and all this stuff. So you can choose either this API, which is using .NET Core MVC and everything we implemented on our own, or you could also start the API Next. So the API Next uses this NGate, my API gateway and experimental library. There is no code, there's just configuration using modules and YAML. So whenever you want to start services, you need to start either API or API Next.
Yeah, the crucial part is that they both act the same way.
Yes.
So the result will be always the same.
Yeah.
But as Piotr said, the preferred way for you folks who are new to the microservices is the API, the regular one.
Yeah, but like Darek said, they will be able to handle the request, and you'll get the same responses. So you can start either this one or the API Next. And here,
then with what we have, then we have the microservices in general. So everything which has the services in the path is pretty much the microservices, and we'll go to the to the description of each of one, and I think in the next episode. But basically, all of them are just the microservices that encapsulate some part of the domain.
Yeah, all of the services are being in use except one, and this one that is currently obsolete, it's here. So it's the services storage, and we changed our mind in a way how we want to store our data, especially read models. So we get rid of this one, and for now you can just use these 7 remaining services, being customers, identity, notifications, operations, orders, products, and signaler. So you will have an API, either this one or this one, and then 7 services, and this is pretty much it to run the whole solution. And
in the near future, we'll probably announce frontend, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe some new services along the way, as we'll teach you how to work with microservices and implement them in .NET Core using some of our patterns or extension methods and so on.
All right. So first question: how do we actually clone all these repositories? Because I know that we have some fancy script for this, for pulling all repositories.
Yeah. So in our DShop, we have this scripts directory here, and you can find there some helpful scripts. So if you take a look at my overall solution in the root repository, I have cloned all of the repositories here. So I have somewhere a root repository, for example, like here on my disk, and then I just clone from GitHub all of the repositories, so they are all in the same place. And you could basically just clone this one, or you don't even have to clone it at all. You can just grab this, for example, git clone all script file from DShop scripts directory, and then put it somewhere on your hard drive, and then just run it. For example, using the terminal like git -clone all, and it will basically clone all of the repositories if you don't have them yet. And similarly, you can do something like git pull all, and this one will just update all of your repositories from using the develop and master branch. And there are a few more, like for building your images using .NET, running your services using .NET Run All, or building Docker images. So you can find some very, very basic but helpful scripts.
So basically, just clone this one repository, DShop, and you will get the access to all the scripts. Very handy. there's no need to to do this several times to clone everything.
Yeah.
And we also have a
can
SLN file, right?
Yes. So here you can also find the SLN. It's here in the root repository. And as you can see, you can just put this SLN again in this root directory, and you can open it through Visual Studio or through Rider like I did, and it will load all of your services under this SLN. So it's easier to work while on your local machine. Just keep in mind that each one of these is a separate application except the common, which is our utility library. But yeah, as you can see, I can just run the services either from my Visual Studio or Rider, and the SLN will just load them in under this single solution. So it's easier to debug and to see what's going on. So we can use this SLN.
Okay, so do you have something else for this part?
Yeah, just the basic requirements. .NET Core SDK. Yeah. And we have a happy news. This is also one of the answers why we are recording today, because yesterday there was a release of .NET Core 2.2, and all of our libraries and services are up to date with .NET Core 2.2. So just download this version to have it up running.
That's the best excuse so far we got.
Yeah. And you also need the Docker, because we run a lot of infrastructural parts through Docker. Of course, you don't really need to have Docker, because you could run RabbitMQ or Redis or MongoDB or SQL Server, everything on your own as your local services, but it's much easier to work with Docker. And yeah, in one of the episodes, we'll probably show you how you can build your own Docker images for your own services and how you can deploy them to some virtual machine. So just get the Docker and .NET Core SDK.
Yeah, let's face it, it just more fancy and way more handy than regular installation on your hard drive. Yeah.
Okay, so this is how our repositories look like and our services.
Yep. So I think that we should go. So basically we covered the repositories on a GitHub, and as you probably guessed, we have the exact representation, almost the same in their file structure. But I think that we need to explain a few things. And first thing is the common package, for which is in a nutshell, basically the common package collects all the infrastructure stuff, everything which is shared across the microservices. So whenever this is, the MongoDB configuration or some, RabbitMQ and every type of stuff we have, there is, as you see, the Fabio, MailKit, and some metrics with the Grafana and so forth. Everything which is shared across the microservices is right there. And this is one of the things that we discussed with Piotr, that maybe we will divide this common package into smaller pieces. So like, common persistence, common logging, common something, because that would make more sense, because for now, as you see, this common package is huge.
Mm-hmm.
But it's way easier to work with this, right?
Yeah, just keep in mind that in an ideal world, all of your microservices should be totally separate from each other. You don't want to have any coupling or references here.
Yeah.
So things like DTOs, messages, contracts, all these things, you shouldn't have any references to other services or to other packages. But we just decided that for some common utilities like connecting to database, connecting to message bus or load balancer or this sort of stuff, we could just have our own utility library and maybe, like Darek said, just split it into smaller pieces and then produce our own NuGet packages. But again, you could just copy and paste the code for your infrastructural parts as well, and that's totally fine. It could be even better, but we just did it for simplicity. But that's the only common package that we have, that we share. We don't have any other references between services at all. So that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And okay, so there is our API, and here are our services. So just to talk very briefly what they are doing, there is our customer service, so it's all about handling customer accounts. Identity, so it's basically all about creating an account, like registering and signing in the user, so it will return to you the JWT token, and you can use this access token to access all of the endpoints that require you to be authenticated or authorized using some claim or role. Notification services, it's not really like a core service. It's more like a supporting service or supporting domain. So this is all about sending email notifications.
Operations and Signal are both together are the part of our error handling, error messaging part of this application. And there's the operations microservice are also the place when we host sagas for dealing with distributed domains. But this is a topic definitely for the separate video, I guess.
Yeah, because
it's a quite complex thing.
Yeah,
how we actually deal with error handling and communicating with end user that something went wrong in the app.
Yeah, because as you will see during our next episode, like with great power comes great responsibility. And whenever there is like fully asynchronous system and there is a lot of asynchronicity and you are communicating using asynchronous messaging and so on, there is a lot of things that you might not be aware of. Like, for example, how do I let my end user know what's going on with his request? So you have to keep in mind that for this you might need specialized services, because otherwise you, for example, can't send a meaningful response to your end user or can't handle the distributed transactions. So this is what is all these two are about.
Yeah, there's a lot of things actually that you're not, when you're in the monolith world, you're not even think about them as a issue, and when it comes to microservices, then it's like, oh, so this is actually an issue here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of nasty stuff here, and we'll definitely cover most of them.
And then we have two remaining core services, like our core domain. So orders, which is all about handling your orders, because DShop is very simple e-commerce, so it's like a online shop. So it's all about handling orders, and products is all about creating, updating, or deleting products. So it's like a typical CRUD service for products that can be managed by administrator.
It's pretty cool that it took us 15 minutes to actually tell folks that the DShop is actually, e-commerce. I think that we should start with this. So for those of you who don't know this, this app is just simple web store with some products.
Yes, with some products, and it's very complex because it's not a monolith.
We have like 15 endpoints.
Yeah,
great.
At least. Okay, so now let's go briefly through the requests. But before we can do any requests and before we can start API or any service, we need to have the basic infrastructure up and running. So for this, I can use Docker. For now, as you can see, I have nothing running through the Docker. So I need to run three things. I need to run RabbitMQ, being our message bus, Mongo, which is used for storage for services, and Redis, used for distributed caching. Now, in our DNC DShop, you can find this Docker images file, text file, and here you can find the commands to run these services and also a few others. So for example, you can scroll down to RabbitMQ, and I could copy this command like this. I could paste it here and just run it, and it will run my RabbitMQ in the background, publishing this port so I can access it from my local machine. But for now, I will remove it. So I'll just remove this container, and I can run it even easier. So I can go into my compose directory, and here I can find a few Docker compose files. So for example, there is my infrastructure YAML, and there is Mongo, RabbitMQ, and Redis. So I can just run all this infrastructure at once using a single command. So if I open my DNC DShop, one sec, I need to go here. Okay, DNC DShop, and I go to compose. I can type something like docker-compose -f, which stands for a file name, and then I can type the file name that I want to actually start. So this will be my base infrastructure. Up, and if I type -d, it will run in the background as a daemon. So I can run it like
process.
Yeah, I can run it like this, and you can see that if I type docker ps again, I will have these 3 services up and running through Docker, and they will be all in the same network called DShop network. So I could even do something like docker inspect DShop network, and here are my services so they can see each other. Okay, so now once I have my base structure up and running, I could go to this localhost 15772 port, which is a default port for RabbitMQ, and I should be able to open the RabbitMQ here soon. It might take a few seconds, it might take a minute to actually start. So let's just be patient here. Okay, so as you can see, my RabbitMQ is up. I can log in using default guest and guest here. And for now, the queue is empty. There is no exchanges, no queues. But I'll be able to connect to RabbitMQ. And in order to start my services, I can do 2 things, or actually 3. I could either run them, for example, through Rider or Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, just simply by clicking F5 in debug mode or in non-debug mode, or I could run them all at once if I have this multiple startup enabled. I could also
it's supported both in Visual Studio and Rider.
I can also run them like this. I could go, for example, to my DShop API, and I could either go to DShop API in this src directory and just type .NET run. And if my queue is working, I should be able to connect. So just a second. This applies to to every single service. It's the same. So not for
running this inside the API will not run every all services.
Yeah.
This will one particular .NET instance.
This is for each one .NET Core app. Or I can also go to the root directory. So I'm here now, and I could just type scripts.net run, which will do the same, but you can run it easier from a root directory, but it will just go to this src DShop API and execute .NET run. And we have the same script for each of the one services. So if I want to run a lot of services, I could go again, for example, to my identity service now, and for example, again, do scripts.net run. And it will run identity service on a different port, 5002, and so on and so on. So I could start all the services like this. But I can even make it a little bit easier. So in order, so I don't have to do it one by one. Of course I can, but I don't have to. So I will just kill all the services, make sure there is no .NET command in the background. And like I said, we have this script called .NET run all, and it will just have this, it just has this loop. So it will go through each repository and will run it in the background. So in order to run it on Windows, you need to have, for example, git bash or conemu or commander, anything that is able to interpret shell script and run it.
SH.
Yeah. So it will run API and 6 services. It's not running notification service because notification service requires you to have the email set up. I mean, you can run notification service, of course, but you will just see some errors whenever there will be some business logic fired up, because you need to set up your Gmail account to have your emails being sent. Okay, so I could just type. As you can see, I have my script there in the root repository, so I could just type .NET run all, and it will just run these all services in the background in the as system daemons. So in a few seconds they should be
and take a while.
Start. And once all the services start, as you can see, they are starting now, one by one, we'll be able to actually run our request. So let's see. I can go to localhost 5000, and there is my API.
It's still bootstrapping,
I
guess.
It's starting all of them. Okay, so API is there. I can go to 5001. There will be my customer service. 5002, there will be my identity service. For 5003, there should be notification service, but like I said, it's not part of our .NET Run all script, but you can run it separately on your own. 5004 will be operation service. 5005 orders, and 5006 products, and 5007 there will be a signaler service. Okay.
It's pretty amazing that you actually remembered all the ports too.
Of course, of course. Basically, you don't have to run all the services at once. You don't have to run signal, error, or notifications. Customers, identity, operations, orders, products are the core ones. But again, because this is a microservices world, and one of the services of microservices is that, for example, I could just start identity service and product service and be able to log in as administrator and just create products. And I don't need to have all these other services running, because, for example, if I need to manage products, I don't need to have customer service or order service up in place, right? So even if some of our services are down, our overall solution can still work. Maybe not fully, but in some way. So this is one of the advantages of creating distributed apps.
But we should get to the point where we actually want to call the API, and of course we could do this like a Piotr did. So just copy and paste the particular endpoint to the Chrome or whenever browser you use, and just invoke call the API. You could be more fancy and use some third-party tool like a Postman or Telerik tools for calling the API. But we actually created something more special and more handy for calling our API, and this will allow you to explore it and understand it more. And in order to make it work, you need to run Visual Studio Code and get this REST client package, which is some extension for the Visual Studio Code editor. And once you download this, you should go to the API. I'm not sure. Do you have the same for the API Next? Yeah,
so it's the same in API Next. So API or API
so
Next.
Whenever you go to the API, any project, you will see this DShop.rest, so this REST extension. And as you see, there is some IntelliSense over each line. And as you see, there is send request. So once you click this send request, this will actually create a HTTP request to our API. And you will see the immediate response on the right side of your editor.
Yeah.
And of course, this also supports some variables. As you see, we have operation ID, product ID. For now, it's like access, but we'll just in a minute we'll replace this. So these are the very handy tool for creating. I wouldn't say it's documentation, but actually it's very handy to exploring APIs.
Yeah,
and showing what's actually available.
And simply by looking at this code, you could just take this and paste into the Postman, grab the URL from here, headers from here, method type from here, and run it through Postman or through some other tool. So this is very easy. Now, let's start our basic flow. As you can see, we have our flow there. And each request starts with these 3 hashes or 3 sharps. And let's start with creating an account as an admin. So I have my email, password, and role set to admin. And let's click send request. And it should actually send request, but sometimes you have to ensure that you clicked it correctly. So I got 204 no content. And just to make sure that I actually created my account,
we'll explain this why.
Yeah, I can try to sign up again, and I'll get an error that email is in use. So basic validation here. And once I have my account registered, I can sign in using the same email and password, and I will get my token here. So I can copy this access token part, just Ctrl+C, and put it there into my variable. And I can click Alt and Z, so it will break the lines. So you can look at it this way. And now I can, for example, add products. So I could just post to these products, and it should create a product for me. So as you can see, I get a product probably, so I can check by calling get products if the product is already here. And I can see the product is here. And I could, of course, open it in the browser by going, for example, through 5000/products. Or directly by calling
the same response.
Yeah. Or directly by calling my product service like 5006/products, and it will return my product list in a little bit different format from my microservice directly. But all of the calls are going through gateway, except the ones that are dedicated to identity service, which is all about creating an account and getting the access token. Okay, let's go further. So I will scroll down a bit, and here's my user workflow. So right now I will create an account as a regular user with user role. And again, I have my account. I can sign in as user. I will get my access token. And I will replace the previous access token that was for admin account. All right. And now,
so maybe you can now try to create a product. So you should not be allowed to do this
that's
because
good idea.
you're a regular user.
If I try post, I will get this 403 forbidden. So you can see we have basic authorization, and that checks the user's role. And
you were authorized, but actually you have no power to.
Same, for example, for browsing
resource.
the customers list, which is only for administrator. And okay, let's go here. I can now post. So this one will actually fill my customer's account, so I can put there my first name, address, and so on. And now I could look into my shopping cart. So I can click get on the cart, and my cart will be empty. And now I can click cart item. So I can add an item to my cart, and I can get my product ID, for example, by calling this get products, as you have seen already. I will get my product ID. As you can see, it costs me 2,000, let's say, dollars or euros. There are 10 items available in stock. So let's call this request. I can, of course, either assign this to my variable, the value, or I can just put it here like this. Sometimes it's faster. Yeah. So let's post product, and let's post it once again. So if I get if I see my cart, there will be there will be the same product added twice, so quantity 2, total price, and of course I could add more products to my cart. But now let's try to create an order. So I will call this post orders. Okay, it probably created my order, but we are living in an asynchronous world full of eventual consistency. So let's see if get orders returns me an order for me. So I can see there is my order. It has status called approved. And if I check the products now, you will see that there are 2 items taken from a stock, so they are in a sort of reserved mode. So having this order now, which was actually here, I can grab this order ID, and I can either call this delete, which will cancel it, so it will be put in the cancel state, and the products will be released. So again, instead of 8 products, there will be 10 in stock available again. Or I can complete an order, so I will just put my order ID here, post, okay, and let's get my orders again. I can see there is order completed, and I can also browse the order details by getting orders/ID, and it will return to me this order details object. So that's pretty much the overall flow. Below you have some basic stuff for your identity service, like getting your details. For example, it's just the user ID. We don't have the full user account object yet. You can change your password, you can refresh your token. We'll get to that later on. But that's the basic flow. And you can
basically 15 endpoints. It's a work for a week. It took us half a year. Great job.
Yeah, and you can
6 microservices.
You can see a lot of things going on in your console with logging, like messages being sent to some exchanges, queues that are subscribing to these messages, some logging while handling and consuming these messages. We'll get to that, how it all works. But if you are able to get through this typical workflow that we have put there, it means you are all good and everything works as expected, and you'll be ready to join our journey into this microservices world and go through the next episodes and see how we implement all those things and how you can take some of these patterns and use them on your own.
Yeah, and just to remind you, if you'll have any trouble, with on any step, so like configuring or just running or sending the request, just don't hesitate to ask us on the forum or in the Gitter. We'll do our best to answer you as fast as it's possible, because we want to make it all running.
And one last thing about infrastructural part, because these services are using MongoDB, so you can, for example, download the Robo3T, which is a free GUI for MongoDB. Just connect to localhost, and you can browse your databases here and see there is a data being spread. And some of the data is duplicated, but it's all fine. Duplication is good in distributed world, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll cover this.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's our introduction.
Yeah, first episode.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Yeah, please let us know if it works for you, or if you have any issues with starting either infrastructure for Docker or any of the services. Just keep in mind that when you are using Windows, you should have either Git Bash or some commander on Konemu console, so you can run the shell scripts.
Maybe we'll just put this on a forum or Gitter.
Yeah.
Or maybe in the description of this video, we'll just paste some links to the command terminals for the Windows OS.
Yeah, and and beware of one thing, especially when you're running Docker on Windows, because Docker and Windows, even though it's supported, it's not like they really like each other. So, for example, on Windows, when you have these paths for -v, which stands for volume, like mapping files to disk, for example, this is a valid path for Unix, Linux, or Mac OS, but it isn't really a valid path for Windows. So, for example, for Windows, it could be more like C, Rabbit, MQ, or something like that. And the same goes to all of these environmental variables. So, on Windows, you should put those in quotes like this. So just keep in mind that for Windows, some of these things might not work. Like, you should probably use quotes there, and for each volume paths, like for example here for MongoDB, given that you are for RabbitMQ or MongoDB, given that you want to use this volume mapping, so you persist your data on disk, just be aware of these paths, and this should be fine.
Yeah. So I think that's it for now. So for the basic introduction to this project, please let us know down in the comments what do you think about this. Maybe you have some suggestions. Also, please remember that you're very welcome with pull requests. Whenever you find a bug or some chance for improvements or performance improvements, whatever, you're very welcome to do some pull requests. But don't try to obfuscate some code that will actually manipulate with blockchain, like in event stream or something like. Yeah, that was something. We'll discover this anyway. So yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that we suck at the ending the video. I'm not quite sure how we're supposed to do this.
Yeah, we should probably tell something what's in the next episode. But we have some ideas, but we can't promise for sure what's the next episode. But we'll probably get to the code, at least partially.
I think that we'll cover more. We'll do some go through the microservice, the particular microservice, how we actually structure this, and we'll probably introduce some domain-driven design concepts just to explain what actually you can find in our microservices and what actually this consists of. So
that when you look at this DShop REST workflow and all these requests, you will know what's going on. So you will know what does it mean when you are calling these post customers, and what the API does, and what's the message handler, how it gets processed, and so on and so on. So we'll get to that.
Because for now it looks like a regular API, but believe us that it's way more complicated. In some cases it really involves like several microservices to actually make it work. So this is definitely not any easy stuff, but we'll get to this. So anyway, we should really end this video.
Yes. Okay. So
see you around. Hopefully, hopefully this year. I think that in 2 weeks we'll just publish something new. Follow us on socials. We'll let you know.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. Thank you and see you next time.
Yeah. See ya.